Yastyaktvā rūpamadhyam prabhavati jagataha anekadha anugrahaya prakshina klesharashihi vishama vishadharaha aneka vaktrasubhogi sarvajnana prasutihi bhojaga parikaraha pritaye yasya nityam devo hirshaha savo vyat sita vimalatanuhu yogado yogayuktaha yogena chittasya padena vacham malam sharirasya cha vaidyakena yopakarotam pravaram muninam Patanjalim pranjaliranatosmi abahu purushakaram shankhachakrasidharinam sahasrashirasam shvetam pranamami patanjalim Shrimate Anantaya Nagarajaya Namo Namaha Patanjala Mahabhashya Charaka Pratisamskritaihi Manovakaya doshanam Hartre ahipataye namaha Bhashyakrit sutrakrit chapi Nirmalantam surupinam Dhyataram Shripatir Nityam Patanjalim Namamyaham Drashtadrashimatraha Shuddhopi Pratyayanopashyaha. So, my friends, last time we were discussing the Sutra 219, which concludes the presentation about what is prakruti according to Yogasutra philosophy. Prakruti is made up of the three gunas that are constantly changing. It is for the purpose of bhoga and apavarga, which means to experience, to enjoy, as well as the other purpose, which is for freedom, to help us become free. It's made of bhutas and indriyas. That means the elements and the senses.
它由 bhutas 和 indriyas 也就是这些元素构成，还有感官。
So we are a complex dynamic of what is called prakruti on the one side, but then Purusha on the other side.
其实我们人就是一个不断变化的，一方面的存在是 prakruti 这个物质存在，另外一方面就是 Purusha。
So Patanjali has presented what is prakruti. Now he is going to talk in this sutra number 220 about what is Purusha, what is drashta.
前面他讲到了什么是 prakruti， 那接下来第二十节我讲说什么是 Purusha。
Drashta drishimatraha shuddhopi pratyaya anupashyaha. The sutra can be divided into two parts. The first part very simple, drashta drishimatraha.
这篇章可以分为两部分，第一部分是很容易的。
There's not much to say about Purusha except Patanjali says drashta is the perceiver, drishimatraha.
里面说到，其实 Purusha 没什么可讲的，它就是一个感受者、观察者。
Consciousness is nothing but the perceiver.
比如说意识不是别的，它就是一个感知者、观察者。
It's not what is perceived, it is the perceiver.
意识它不是被感知到的，而是它本身是感知者。
That's the meaning of the word drishimatraha. Matra means only.
这就是玛已经仅仅是。
Drishimatra means it is the perceiver, it is the only perceiver.
它在这里这两词的意思就是它仅仅是一个感知者而已。
So, it's a very solid philosophical basis that the perceiver is consciousness.
这里很重要的一个基础说理解或者是的基础就是意识就是感知者。
This raises many profound fundamental issues and that are very different from modern understanding of things.
这种理解就会引发很多其他的问题，也会改变我们对很多其他事物的理解。
For example, in modern psychology, we always think about consciousness as the conscious mind.
比如说，现在心理学当中，我们总认为意识就是头脑，有意识的头脑。
But yoga is saying consciousness is not the mind, it's not part of the mind.
但是你要说，其实意识并不是头脑的一部分，
It's part of something different because mind is always changing.
它其实是别的一部分，因为头脑是使用在
Mind has memories.
因为头脑是有记忆的，
Mind has impressions, what is called vasanas.
它会有印记，会留下 vasana。
So it cannot be the perceiver because these things are always changing
因为头脑是不断变化的，所以它本身不能成为感知。
and these things are means to see rather than the perceiver itself.
可以说，头脑是观察的手段和途径，但它本身不是观察者。
So the concept of perception is not part of our mind or body.
所以，感知这个概念、观察这个概念，不是我们身体和头脑的一部分。
When you look at it metaphorically, when we die, for example,
我们可以从比喻的意义上来看，比如说，当我们去世的时候，
our eyes still remain in the body,
眼睛还是存在的，
our ears are still in the body,
耳朵也还在，
the nose is still in the body,
鼻子也还在，
but we can't perceive.
但是我们是没办法感知的，
The eyes don't see,
眼睛看不到了，
the ears don't hear.
耳朵也听不到了。
You teach something to a dead body, it will not listen, it will not learn.
你要教一个尸体一些东西的话，它听不到，你学不会，
It's gone
因为它已经不
because
在了，
consciousness leaves.
就是因为它的意识离开
The，mind is there,
它的头脑，
our brain is there
就是它的大脑还
in
是
the
在
dead body, but the brain doesn't remember, doesn't know anything.
大脑还存在于身体里，但是它就什么也记
So-
不住，什么也不知道。
It raises a very profound philosophical point.
这样就有一个很深刻的哲学问题了。
And this is very much clarified by Acarya Krishnamacharya already in the first chapter when he talks about the sutra Tada Drashta Swarupe Avasthanam.
就在《Krishnamacharya》的第一章中，他讲到这个经文的时候，已经说得很清楚了。
Sutra 1.4.
是第一章的第4句经文，他就解释了。
Because when we say perception is part of consciousness,
如果我们说意识、感知是意识的一部分，
two things are part of consciousness:
意识其实包括两部分，
jnana and ananda. Jnana means knowledge.
一个是尼亚纳，尼亚纳的意思是知识。
This is a very profound philosophical difference between yoga philosophy, Sankhya philosophy, and modern way of understanding things.
这些从数论派的角度，或者说从瑜伽的角度来理解，和我们现代人对意识的理解是很不同的。
Today, when we tell people that you have to know something, you have to have knowledge of something,
如果现在我们说你得知道什么，你了解什么方面的知识，
we are asking people to learn by mind.
我们都是说他要通过头脑、通过大脑去学习。
You learn something and you remember.
我们都学了，然后记住，
But memory is not knowledge.
但是记忆并不是知识。
That's what Patanjali is clarifying here.
帕坦加利在这里是要区分二者的。
What you do with that memory is knowledge.
你针对你的记忆做什么，这才是知识。
Many of us have information about many things we have learned in school, in university, in training programs.
我们在学校或者培训机构里面会学到很多信息，
All that are stored in our brain structure,
这些信息都储存在大脑当中。
but that's not knowledge.
但是这些并不是知识，
That's information.
它们都只是信息而已。
We have a lot of information, but no knowledge.
我们有很多信息，但没有知识。
That's what Patanjali is saying, that jnana, the concept of knowledge, is not part of prakruti, it is part of Purusha.
所以这里帕坦加利说，这些知识其实不是 Impurity， 也不是 Purusha 的一部分。
By the same entity, we also have to understand that the concept of experience,
同时，大家还要理解关于经历这个概念，经验。
even though we are using the senses and the body to experience things,
虽然我们是用身体当中的感官去经历事物，
the experience is not for the body or the senses, but it is for the Purusha.
但是这些经历和经验却不是为了感官、为了身体而存在的，它是为了 Purusha 而存在的。
I watch a movie and I like it.
比如说，我看了场电影很喜欢，
Am I using my ears and eyes to see and enjoy the movie?
我在用耳朵、用眼睛去看、去听，我是很享受的。
But it's not my eyes and ears that is enjoying, it is the Purusha, the Drashta.
我看的时候用的是眼睛和耳朵，但是并不是眼睛和耳朵很享受，而是我的意识
And
Purusha。
that's a very powerful and profound philosophical teaching that our friend Patanjali is sharing by just these two words, Drashta, Drishimatara. Drashta is the perceiver.
就是这两个词，帕坦加利已经告诉我们很深刻的内容了。但是它就是一个观察者，意识只是观察者。
This has to challenge all of our way of understanding how we learn things.
其实这就挑战了我们之前对学习是对认知的理解。
Many of us, we want information
很多人会想要的是信息，
and we think that is knowledge.
我们认为信息就是知识，
It's not knowledge.
其实它不是知识。
Many people, for example, want to know about somebody or something. The first thing nowadays people do is do Google search.
比如说，现在我们想要了解什么事情，首先要做的就是去 Google 一下，搜索一下。
Maybe in China you are doing WeChat.
比如说，在中国我们都用微信，
But that only gives you some information. It's not the truth. It's not reality.
但是我们这样获得的只是信息而已，不是事实。
So that's why Patanjali is so careful here, because he's saying Drashta, Drishimatara, and he chooses to use the word Drashta instead of Purusha.
所以这里他很谨慎，他用的词是 Drashta 而不是 Purusha，
Because the word Drashta means the perceiver,
因为 Drashta 它的意思是感知者
the one who sees, the one who experiences, because perception is not only through the eyes.
可以说是一个感受者、感知者。之所以没有用观察者，因为感知不仅仅用视觉。
That's why Acarya Krishnamacharya in his composition, the Dhyana Malika, talks about this as well.
Krishnamacharya 对经文的评注当中也说到了这点。
Sankhye Patanjali Shastre Bhoktaram Purushan Jaguhu. In the teaching of Sankhya and Yoga philosophy,
在数论派哲学当中，
which are foundations to many other philosophies from India,
数论派也是印度的其他哲学流派的一种，
like Vedanta, like Ayurveda, etc.,
比如说还有费坦多派，还有阿育吠陀的知识，都是基于数论派。
all of which evolved from Sankhya philosophy.
所有的这些后面的科学都是源自数论派哲学。
The one who experiences, the one who enjoys, is the Purusha, the Drashta.
真正享受的、去体验的，其实是 Purusha， 是我们的意识。
The body and the mind are vehicles to experience some things, but the experience is not for them.
可以说，身体和头脑，它只不过是帮助我们去感知的一个工具而已。真正享受这些感知、认知的，不是神，不是
So
他们。
this is one part of the reality we have to understand, because in modern times we are all very intellectual. We are analyzing a lot with our brains.
这点很重要要理解，因为现在社会人们总是喜欢分析，总是喜欢用头脑，
That's why we are in a mess.
所以说我们会生活得很混乱。
Whereas if we follow the old philosophies and we understand that experience and perception are not through the brain, are not through the mind, but through consciousness, we will experience this world very differently.
如果我们通过理解哲学，知道真正去享受经历这一切的，不是身体，也不是头脑，而是我们纯粹的意识的话，其实我们看待事物的角度都会发生变化。
And it's very, very fascinating,
这点是很迷人的，很重要的。
because when we are perceiving through consciousness, we cannot be anywhere except the present moment.
因为如果你真的通过意识去感知的话，你不能处在任何其他的情境下，只能活在当下。
Whereas when we allow our mind to dominate, we are normally in the past or in the future.
但是如果我们让头脑主宰的时候，我们或是在过去，或是在幻想未来。
Normally, we are remembering people through past experiences.
我们总是去回想过去的人和事，
We are remembering places through past
或
experiences,
者是回想过去去过的地方，
or through future imagination.
或者是我们通过幻想未来会去哪里。
I'm not in the present moment.
这个时候我都是没有活在当下。
Some of you are sitting in the chair now.
可能有人现在虽然坐在椅子上，
No, I cannot think, oh, you're sitting in the chair where somebody else was sitting. You are in the chair now.
你现在确实是坐在椅子上，但是你可能想的是别的事情。
Tomorrow, somebody else may sit in the chair.
那可能过一段时间之后，会有其他人坐在这个椅子。
At that time, I cannot think, oh, this person was sitting in the chair 4 weeks ago.
那个时候你，比如说我看到其他人坐在那个椅子上的时候，我就不能想啊，
Mind
有
is
别人坐在这儿。
mind is perceiving through often memory and imagination.
因为头脑的感知总是通过回忆、通过信息来进行的。
That's what Patanjali calls kalpita vritti.
这就是帕坦加利说的，
He talks about this in a later sutra. Bahira kalpita vrittir mahavideha tataha prakasha varanakshayaha. This is something that comes in a later chapter, in the 3rd chapter.
这是第3章当中讲到的经文。
He says that most of our perception that we think is perception is through the mind, which is through memory and imagination. It is false.
那他说的是说，很多我们认为是感知的，其实都是通过头脑去感知的。我们通过头脑的所谓的感知，都不是感知，而是一种回忆，都是虚假的感知。
Because memory and imagination disconnects us from the present moment.
因为或者是记忆，或者是想象，它都是跟过去和未来相关。
Whereas if you are looking through consciousness, we have to be only present. We cannot be in past or future.
如果说你真的通过意识去感知的话，只能活在当下，不能想过去和未来。
That's why animals are better than us, because they are functioning through consciousness.
所以说，动物在这方面比我们强，因为它们通过意识去感知，
They accept the present moment.
它们接受当下。
Today is summer, they will be accepting that it's summer.
今天是夏天，它就接受这是夏天。
We don't want to accept the summer, so we put AC.
我们不想接受夏天，所以我们就把空调开了。
Few months later, it becomes winter.
过几个月之后变成冬天了。
Animals accept it winter, go to hibernation.
动物也接受是冬天，它们就冬眠了。
We don't want to accept winter, we put heater.
我们又不想接受是冬天，所以我们就把暖气打开。
So we neither accept summer nor we accept winter.
所以说，我们夏天的冬天都不接受。
Whereas nature, animals and plants, they are much more connected to their consciousness. They accept what is happening. They are moving with the present moment. They don't always worry about past and future.
但是自然界中的植物和动物，它们都更多的是按照自然的节奏去生活的，完全是按照自然的定律去做一切事。
We save money in the bank.
我们在银行里存很多钱。
For what? Oh, we have to have money for the future when one day we will become bankrupt.
为什么呢？说万一哪天我破产了，我得留点养老的钱。
So we are not enjoying the present moment.
所以就没有享受当下。
This money takes away the joy of enjoying the present moment.
可以说存的这些钱都让我们
Or we are
当下的快乐。
Or we are afraid of the past. Oh, I was very poor. I don't want to be poor.
或者说我们会担心过去，说我过往太穷了，
So
我不想穷了。
many times we are disconnecting from reality because we are allowing our mind to dominate.
所以大多数时候，我们和现实脱节，都是因为我们让头脑主宰了，我们没有活在当下。
When we are acting from the place of drashta, the consciousness, we will enjoy the present moment, whatever it is. Enjoy or experience is a better word. We will experience the present moment as it happens.
如果你真的是用心去感知，用意识去感知周围发生的一切的话，真的始终会活在当下，不管当下是好是坏，都是随着当下的一起一伏而生活。
And this is a very important and powerful point that Patanjali is making.
这是太宰家说的非常非常重要的、很有影响的一个观点。
And what we must focus on is why we are not functioning from the place of consciousness.
那现在我们要问的就是为什么我们没有真正的从意识去感知、去生活呢？
And that is what Patanjali says is because of what he calls the kleshas, the afflictions.
那太宰家说，这都是因为有 klesha。
But Patanjali puts us in an awkward position
这样太宰家就让我们处在一个很尴尬的境地。
because he delivers another reality in the second part of the sutra.
但是在这个经文的第二部分，他还说了另外一部分。
Shuddhaha api pratyaya anupashyaha. It's a very fascinating problem we have.
这是我们面临的一个很有意思的问题。
Drashta is the perceiver,
但是他是感知者，
but
但是呢，
pratyaya anupashyaha, he or she perceives through the mind and the senses.
他是感知者，但是他要感知，需要通过感官和头脑。
Even though he or she it is clean, shuddhaha api, even though Purusha is clean, it perceives through mind and senses.
虽然意识Purusha本身它是既洁净的，但是它要通过头脑和感官去感知。
This is the unfortunate reality we are trapped.
所以很不幸的，我们就被陷于这样的事实当中。
Mind and senses are the vehicles through which we have to perceive.
我们得通过意识、通过头脑和感官这两个工具来感知。
Shuddhaha api, this word needs explanation.
这个词它的意思是的话，它的意思是解释。
Drashta is shuddha. Shuddha means pure.
实在的意思是纯粹的，而它的意思就是的。
Now, when you say pure or clean, what does it mean?
当我们说纯净的、洁净的时候是什么意思呢？
Let's say you take the example of your clothes
咱们就说衣服吧，
or your glasses.
或者说你的眼镜。
Now, your clothes, suppose it has dirty water.
假如说你的衣服上沾了脏水，
Is it clean?
那这个衣服还干净吗？
It's not.
就不干净。
Suppose your shirt has sweet honey.
假如说你的这个衣服上沾了蜂蜜，
It's not clean.
它还是不干净。
So whether something is dirty water or it's honey, it's still not clean.
所以不管沾的是脏水还是蜂蜜，它的衣服都是不干净。
The same with our body and the mind.
头脑和身体也是一样的道理。
Whether your mind has positive memories or negative memories, it's not clean, it is biased.
不管头脑里有的是好的记忆还是不好的记忆，头脑都是不干净的，都是有偏见的。
I have good memories about somebody, so I like them and I look at them that they are positive people. It is biased.
我对某个人有了一些美好的回忆，所以我喜欢他，我就会做一些对他好的事情。其实这也是偏见。
I have bad memories about somebody, I look them with, oh, it's a bad person, that is biased.
我如果跟某些人有不好的经历，我就会觉得他始终是坏人，这也是偏见。
So whether it's positive or negative, it's still some kind of bias.
所以不管你是有积极的记忆还是不好的记忆，它都是偏见。
Because mind and senses, they always function through bias.
因为可以说头脑和感官始终都是通过留下偏见来。
And that bias is through various, how do you call, origins.
这些偏见里来自不同的来源。
The bias could be through cultural or family learning.
可能是有文化或者是家庭方面的影响。
No, for example, in many Asian countries, people of the same gender are holding hands.
比如说有很多国家，就亚洲国家的人都是同性的人会牵手走路。
Whereas in many Western countries, people of the same gender were afraid to hold hands.
但是在西方国家，如果是同性牵手会很奇怪。
No. So there's a bias in the learning.
还有在学习方面也有偏见。
Through culture, through family, through the environment where we are growing up.
我们是通过生活的环境，还有文化、家庭等等，获得了、学会了很多偏见。
But there's also bias because of education.
还有教育获得让人有偏见。
Somebody who is educated will look at something one way. Somebody who is not educated will look at the same thing another way.
有的受过教育的人会这样看待事情，没有受过教育的人另外一个方式。
Somebody who is trained as an engineer will look at the situation one way. Somebody who is an artist will look at the same situation another way.
一个工程师看一件事情是这样的角度，而一个艺术家可能就是另外一个角度了。
So even education, what kind of education you will have, will look at things differently, will make us look at things differently.
所以说，我们所受的教育也会让我们从不同的角度去看待事情。
Then we all have what is called memories,
还有就是记忆，
or what we are used to.
或者说我们习惯的东西，
What do you call impressions?
就是所谓的印记。
Now these need not only be trauma.
这里说的印记不一定就是创伤，
It could also be repeated impressions, what we get used to.
可能就是我们习惯的重复不断出现的留下来的印记。
Like even in the same family, this could be very different.
同样的一个家庭里面，不同的人印记也会很多种。
My mother grew up in a very South Indian family where they eat so spicy food.
我妈妈是在南印度长大的，所以她们吃很辣的东西。
But when I grew up, it was not like that because neither my father nor my grandmother were used to eating very spicy food.
但是我长大之后没有吃太多辣的，因为我爸爸和奶奶都不习惯吃辣的。
So yesterday I have an experience with my mother.
昨天晚上和我妈妈之间发生一件事，
She makes some lunch for us,
她给我们做了午饭，
and she's happily eating.
她很高兴就在那吃她做的，
And I am crying
我就哭了，
because there's so much chili in that.
因为辣椒太多了，
It's so spicy for me.
对我来说太辣了。
I am crying. She's eating the same food as I am.
我就辣哭了，但我妈很享受，她吃的跟我是一样的。
So I follow the Ayurvedic advice of putting some ghee to reduce the spiciness.
所以我就按照配合的方法，往里面加点酥油，
I put 3 spoons of ghee.
放了3勺酥油，
I am still not able to eat it. It's burning my tongue.
但是还是吃不下去，感觉舌头都烧着了。
My mother says, "What? It's not spicy at all."
我妈说啊，这根本就不辣呀，
And we are eating the same food.
我们吃的完全是一样的。
So the same thing, object, is experienced differently based on impressions we carry.
所以说，同样的一件事情，基于我们过往的印记不同，我们对这件事情的感受又很不同。
My tongue and my digestive system has not the same impression than my mother.
就是我的舌头、我的消化系统留下的印记和我妈妈的印记是不一样的。
The same, some people come and find in some place very hot, some other people find it very cold.
同样一个地方，有的人觉得好冷，有的人觉得好热，
Because of what impressions we are carrying.
都是因为我们过往携带的印记是不
Now,
同。
these could be repeated subtle impressions. It's not trauma.
这里面说的印记可能是比较微妙的各种印记，不一定是创伤。
But some things are have leaving impressions because of trauma we had.
还有一些事情是因为受到过去创伤的影响，
So the same experience can be looked at differently because of trauma.
所以说同样的事件，由于你创伤的不同，角度也是不同。
So this is what is called asatvasanas, painful memories, painful impressions.
有一些创伤就是不好的、痛苦的印记。
So the same situation may be looked at by somebody who has had a painful experience one way, by somebody else who has not had the painful experience another way.
所以说，同样的事情，曾经经历过痛苦创伤的人，他是这样看的；而没有经历过创伤的人，就是另外的看法。
Like simple example,
举个简单的例子，
in India when you are walking on the streets, very often you meet some dogs.
比如说在印度大街上走路，经常会遇到狗。
Now somebody who has no traumatic experience with dogs, who likes dogs, will go and hug the dog, pet the dog, feed the dog with some biscuits.
比如说没有被狗养过的人的话，他可能会就很喜欢狗，抱一抱它，喂一喂这个狗。
Whereas somebody else who has had a bad experience will see this dog as a threat.
但是如果被狗咬过的人，一看到狗就觉得有威胁了。
And sometimes this dog may be even so small like a puppy, but still it's a threat.
超级小，就是一个小宠物狗而已。
Because of the impression we carry. That is why mind and body, they have what is called biases.
但是即使是小狗，这个人也会怕的不行。所以我们说，头脑和身体是有偏见的。
They are what is called ashuddhi, ashuddha, not clean, not pure.
他们都是ashuddha，都是不干净的、不洁净的。
Whereas on the other side, consciousness is somehow impressionless, biasless.
但是另外一方面，意识它是没有印记的，没有偏见的，
And this is very, very important.
这点很重要。
And that's where, even though it's pure, unfortunately, it's dependent on something that is not pure to perceive.
虽然意识是纯净的，但是很不幸的是，它得依赖头脑、身体这些不纯净的东西来感知。
It is the problem of humanity.
这就是人类的困境。
I always explain this to my students through this metaphor.
我经常通过这个比喻来向学生解释。
You take some water that is passing through the pipe
我们用一些来自从水管里面流出来的
from one place to the other.
这个水是从一个
So-
地方流到另外一个地方
The water passes through the pipe,
可以说是水通过管道流过来，
but the pipe cannot claim ownership of the water.
但是不能说这个管道就说水是我的，
It's just letting go of the water, waiting for the next load of water to come so that it can go on.
管道它只是让水流过去，然后就下一波水再流过去，不断的流。
The same way, for us, when life is happening, life experiences are like the water. We have to let it pass and wait for the next experience.
那同样的，我们的生活就好像是水，我们只能让水流过去，让生命中的一个事件发生，我们只是等待，然后让下一个事件再发生。
Mind and senses are sticky. They hold on to these experiences. They hold on to these memories. They hold on to these vasanas.
但是头脑和感官是比较粘稠的，他们会抓住这些记忆不放，抓住这些印记不放，
And therefore complicate life.
所以就让生活很复杂的。
Whereas consciousness, if you allow that to dominate,
但是如果我们让意识主导我们的话，
it will just pass on because it's looking at the present moment. It's not looking at what was before or what comes after.
那意识就会让生活顺其自然的流过，因为它只专注在当下，不管过去和未来。
It's my job to see this, not my job to worry about what happened before or what happened after.
所以意识说，我现在的工作就是体验现在，而不去管过去和未来会发生什么。
And that's what Patanjali is saying we have to do. Even though we are dependent on mind and senses,
这也是帕坦加利说的，我们要做到的。虽然我们依赖头脑和感官，
we have a choice.
但是我们还是有选择的。
We have a choice. We can execute that choice.
我们要取决于你自己要做哪个选择。
What we choose to experience, what we choose to let go, is our choice.
我们选择去经历什么，选择要放手什么，都是自己的选择。
That's what Patanjali is telling earlier when he talks about abhyasa and vairagya.
这也是帕坦加利讲到不执着的时候在
No.
讲的。
Whereas we don't do that.
但是我们都做不到，
We blame.
我们就各种抱怨。
Somebody comes and gives you some biscuit.
假如说有人过来给你那个点儿饼干，
You eat it.
你吃完了，
You get diabetes.
吃完了你疼到
Then you
胃口
complain.
你就抱怨，
Oh, she gave me the biscuit. What could I do?
都是他给我饼干，我能怎么办呢？
No, just because some biscuit is there, you don't have to eat it.
只是有饼干在那儿放着，不代表你可以吃。
The same with objects of vision, with senses, with hearing. You can choose.
同样，你选择听什么、看什么等等，这些都是可以选的。
Our mind and senses cannot perceive everything.
我们的感官头脑不能感知一切，
It can be directed to perceive what we want to perceive.
我们可以将感官投射用到一种想感知的地方去。
That is when we are empowering ourselves.
这就是我们找回自己的能力、权利的过程。
And yoga is about empowerment.
而瑜伽就是要找回自我的主宰权，
We don't blame other people
不要抱怨他人，
or we don't blame objects.
我们也不抱怨这些东西。
Sir, nice, delicious mango was there. What could I do, sir?
你不能说这么好吃的一个芒果在我面前摆着，我能怎么办？
Just because one mango is in front of you, you don't have to eat it.
只是因为一个芒果在你面前，不意味着你必须得吃啊。
Especially if you have some pitta aggravation, you should avoid mangoes.
尤其是脾痰过盛的，就不要再吃芒果了。
But somebody gives you a free, oh, no, nice, free mango. Okay, I will eat it.
有人即使免费给你一个，你说这免费的芒果，那我吃吧。
What could I do, sir? How could I say no?
那这样你就很疯狂，你没办法。
It's very, very important. That's why we have to re-engineer the way we are functioning.
所以说这点很重要，我们得重新调整一下自己这台机器，确定自己到底该怎么工作。
Patanjali says, yes, you are dependent on mind and senses.
发展家里说，确实我们需要依赖头脑和感官。
But in the next sutra, he will clarify, tadartha eva drishyasya atma.
但是下一句经文他就解释了，
Mind and senses exist to serve you, not the other way around.
头脑和感官是它之所以存在，是为我们服务的，而不能我们为了他们而。
Just look at it metaphorically.
我们可以从比喻的角度来看，
You have a car, you have a driver.
比如说我们有车有司机，
You sit in the car,
你坐在车里，
and then the driver takes you wherever he wants to go.
然后司机想去哪，他就把你带到哪去。
You can't complain saying, "Oh, driver took me, sir. What can I do?"
你不能说，应该是你想去哪里，你就让司机带你去哪里。你不能说司机往那开的，那能怪我吗？
Our body and mind are like the driver and the car.
我们的身体和头脑就有点像司机和车，
The body is the car.
所以说身体就是这辆车，
The mind is the driver.
而头脑就是司机。
But don't forget, you are the passenger.
不要忘了，真正坐这个车的乘客是你，
You have to decide where you want to go, not the driver, not the car.
是你决定要去哪儿，不是司机，也不是车。
That's why Patanjali is clarifying in the next sutra, tadartha eva drishyasya atma. The function of prakruti is to serve the Purusha.
所以他在家里说 ，prakruti 物质身体它的功能是要为了意识 Purusha，
Not the reverse.
而不是反过来的。
We all have a dharma in life. We are not born in this world just to eat, sleep, and procreate.
我们每个人生来都是有 dharma 有使命的，不是说活着就是为了吃喝拉撒睡。
We all have a mission or a purpose in life. That's why we are existing here.
我们都是有使命，都是有生命的目的的，所以才会
No.
来到这里。
To fulfill that purpose, we have the body and the senses.
为了完成这个使命，我们才会有感。
So we have to find that and redirect our body and senses to function that way rather than allow mind and senses to distract us in 100 different directions.
所以说，我们就找到自己的使命，然后重新去指挥自己的身体和感官，为了这个使命而努力，而不是反过来让身体和感官支配着我们到处乱跑。
And we cannot blame that we are in relationship with body and senses.
我们也不能怪说我就受限于感官和身体。
Unfortunately, we are in this combination of Purusha and Prakriti. It's like a dysfunctional relationship.
很不幸的就是我们就是一个 Purusha 和 prakruti 的结合体，他们的关系就是很复杂。
Because it's two very different entities. One is with gunas, one is without gunas.
因为这是两个很不一样的存在，一个是有 gunas， 一个是没有的，
One is changing all the time, one is not changing.
而一个是一直在变的，另外一个是永恒不变的。
One is full of impressions, the other is not full of other is got no impressions.
一方是有很多印记，另外一方没有印记。
So there's a lot of difference between the two.
所以说，意识和身体有特别大的区别。
But whether you like it or not, somehow they are in relationship.
不管你喜不喜欢，意识和身体就是一个组合，它们就是有很密切的关系。
We cannot reject our body, we cannot reject our mind, we have to use it.
我们不能拒绝身体和头脑，得去利用它们。
And more importantly, not let them use us.
更重要的是，不能让身体和头脑利用了我们。
And that is the important message of the sutras, that drashta, the Purusha, is the master, it's not prakruti.
这就是这句经文要传达给我们的信息。真正的主人是 Purusha， 是意识，而不是 Impurity， 不是我们的物质身体。
Because remember, the taste of the body and the mind can keep changing.
要记住，其实身体和头脑是在不断的变化的。
You like something one day, you don't like something another day.
可能今天喜欢这个东西，明天就不喜欢了。
You like somebody one day, you don't like the somebody another day.
今天喜欢这个人，明天就不喜欢了。
It keeps changing.
就一直在变。
But consciousness, drashta, does not change.
但是意识是不会变的。
It is the observer, and we have to allow life experiences to be observed by consciousness, not worry about too much in the mind.
意识就是纯粹的观察者，我们就要让生活由意识主宰，作为一个纯粹的观察者的生活，不然就头脑。
So that's why, my friends, if you look at all of these situations, it goes back to the very simple, fundamental message that information may be in the head,
那我们追溯所有的说法，其实就是告诉我们，信息是储存在头脑里的，
but knowledge is in the heart.
但是真正的知识是在心里的。
Your impressions and biases may be in the mind,
可能你的印记和偏见都是在头脑当中，
but your experience is actually through what you call consciousness.
但是你真正的体验是通过意识来体验。
So, whether we take yoga tradition or any other tradition, the secret always comes back to reconnecting with our heart.
所以不管是瑜伽传统还是其他的传统，或者最终都回归到要让我们回归内心和内心连接。
And I think it's a very important reason why my father named his book The Heart of Yoga.
这也是为什么我的爸爸把他的书命名为瑜伽之心。
He didn't call the book The Mind of Yoga,
他并没有说瑜伽是头脑，
because mind keeps changing.
因为头脑一直在变，
Heart is the one that makes the connection.
而心才是去建立连
And,
接的。
and when we are talking about the heart here, we're not talking about the organ that is pumping blood.
这里说的心不是泵血的心脏，
We're talking about the place of consciousness.
这里说的心指的是意识所在的地方。
So, this sutra essentially concludes with this very powerful message that what matters is consciousness.
所以这个经文最终的结论很重要，就是真正重要的是意识。
We have to accept, though, that consciousness is functioning through body and mind.
但是我们要接受这个现实，就是意识需要通过头脑和身体来起作用。
But we have to remind ourselves that the master is consciousness, it is not body and mind.
但是我们要不断的提醒自己，真正的主人是意识，而不是身体和头脑。
And therefore, we have to change the way we function from being led by mind and senses to lead the mind and senses using the power of our consciousness. That is self-empowerment.
所以说，我们要改变自己的生活方式，由被身体和头脑主宰，变成去通过意识主宰身体和头脑，这才是有意识的生活，是找回自我权利的过程。
And the only way we can do that is by keeping our heart open.
而唯一能够做到这样的方式，就是要敞开、打开内心。
And when voices are coming from our mind,
当头脑里有声音出现的时候，
we just say, never mind.
我们就说根本不去管它，不注意它。
Namaste, my friend.